The morning sun was just beginning to shine through the tall windows of Kensington Palace when James Morrison, Prince William's private secretary, heard his phone ring. It was only 7:30 in the morning, and he was not expecting any calls this early. James had been working for the royal family for 15 years, and he knew that early morning calls usually meant something important or urgent was happening. The voice on the other end belonged to Dr. Sarah Chen, the head of pediatric oncology at Manchester Children's Hospital. Her voice was soft, but filled with emotion as she explained why she was calling so early. James could hear the concern in her voice as she spoke about a very special little girl who was fighting for her life. Emma Thompson was only 8 years old, but she had been battling a rare form of cancer for almost 2 years. The doctors had tried everything they could think of, but Emma's condition was getting worse each day. Dr. Chen explained that Emma had maybe 2 or 3 weeks left to live, and she had one very special wish that she hoped could come true. Emma had been following Prince William and Princess Kate's work for many months. She watched their videos online about helping children and supporting mental health. During her long days in the hospital bed, Emma would tell her parents about how Princess Kate was so kind to everyone and how Prince William talked about being brave when things were scary. Emma's mother had shown her pictures of the royal family, and Emma always smiled when she saw them. Dr. Chen continued explaining that Emma had asked her parents if she could meet the Prince and Princess of Wales. Emma had told her mother that she wanted to thank them for giving her hope during the hardest times. She wanted to show them the pictures she had drawn of castles and princesses. Most importantly, Emma wanted to tell them that their kindness had helped her be brave during her treatments. James felt his heart sink as he listened to Dr. Chen's words. He had handled many requests over the years, but this one was different. He could hear the doctor's voice breaking as she talked about Emma's bright smile and positive attitude despite everything she was going through. Dr. Chen explained that Emma's parents had never asked for anything during their daughter's illness, but they were hoping that maybe, just maybe, this one wish could come true. The hospital had tried to contact the palace several times through official channels, but had not received any response. Dr. Chen decided to call directly because she knew that time was running out. She apologized for calling so early, but explained that she had been awake all night thinking about Emma and her family. James asked Dr. Chen to hold on for a moment. He had been working with Prince William and Princess Kate long enough to know how they would respond to this request. He had seen them both with children many times, and he knew that they genuinely cared about helping young people who were facing difficult challenges. Prince William was already awake and having his morning coffee when James knocked on his door. James explained the phone call and watched as the prince's expression changed from curiosity to deep concern. Without asking any questions about his schedule or other commitments, Prince William immediately said they needed to help this little girl. Princess Kate was feeding their youngest child breakfast when William told her about Emma's wish. Kate's eyes filled with tears as she heard about the brave little girl who had been following their work. She did not hesitate for even a second before saying they needed to go to Manchester as soon as possible. James returned to the phone and told Dr. Chen that Prince William and Princess Kate would clear their entire schedule to visit Emma. The doctor began crying with relief and gratitude as she thanked him over and over again. She could not believe that the royal couple would drop everything to help one little girl they had never met. Within 2 hours, all the arrangements were being made for the trip to Manchester. This was not going to be an official royal visit with photographers and formal ceremonies. This was going to be something much more personal and meaningful. Prince William and Princess Kate were going to meet Emma as friends, not as royals, and they were determined to make her wish come true in the most special way possible. Prince William and Princess Kate sat quietly in the back of their royal car as it drove through the beautiful English countryside toward Manchester. The journey would take about 4 hours, and both of them were using this time to prepare themselves for what they knew would be a very emotional meeting. The rolling green hills and small villages they passed seemed peaceful compared to the heavy feelings in their hearts. Kate held a thick folder in her hands that contained everything the hospital had sent about Emma Thompson. She read each page carefully, learning about Emma's brave fight against cancer and all the treatments she had endured over the past 2 years. The medical reports were difficult to understand, but Kate could see that Emma had been through more pain and suffering than any child should ever experience. What touched Kate the most were the letters that Emma had written to the palace over the past few months. Emma's handwriting was shaky because of the medications she was taking, but her words were full of hope and kindness. In one letter, Emma had written about watching Kate's speeches about helping children and how those words made her feel less alone during her long nights in the hospital. Emma had also drawn pictures to go with her letters. There were drawings of Buckingham Palace with colorful flowers around it, and pictures of princesses wearing beautiful dresses. One drawing showed Emma holding hands with Kate, and they were both smiling under a bright yellow sun. At the bottom of that picture, Emma had written, "Thank you for making me brave like a real princess." William noticed that Kate had tears in her eyes as she read Emma's words. He gently took one of the letters and read it himself. Emma had written about how scared she was during her treatments, but how thinking about William's talks on mental health helped her remember that it was okay to be afraid sometimes. She wrote that William had taught her that being brave did not mean never being scared, but it meant doing what you had to do even when you were frightened. The driver, who had been working for the royal family for many years, could see through his mirror that both William and Kate were deeply moved by what they were reading. He had driven them to many official events, but he could tell that this trip was completely different. This was not about royal duties or public appearances. This was about two caring people who wanted to help a little girl who was facing the biggest challenge of her young life. Kate found another letter from Emma that was written just 2 weeks ago. In this letter, Emma had told her parents that she wanted to be strong like Princess Kate and help other sick children feel better. Even though Emma was very ill herself, she was thinking about how she could help others who were going through similar struggles. Kate showed this letter to William, and they both realized that this 8-year-old girl had a heart full of compassion despite everything she was enduring. As they got closer to Manchester, William and Kate talked about how they wanted to approach this meeting. They decided that they would not act like royals making an official visit. Instead, they wanted to be like friends coming to spend time with Emma. They would follow Emma's lead and do whatever would make her happiest and most comfortable. Kate carefully put all of Emma's letters and drawings back in the folder, but she kept one of Emma's pictures on her lap. It was the drawing of them holding hands under the sunshine. Kate looked at this picture and made a silent promise that she would do everything possible to bring some sunshine into Emma's difficult world. The car began to slow down as they entered the busy streets of Manchester. Both William and Kate took deep breaths and prepared themselves for a meeting that they knew would change them forever. They were not just going to fulfill a dying child's wish. They were going to meet a remarkable little girl who had already taught them about courage, hope, and the power of keeping a positive spirit even in the darkest times. The hospital corridors were unusually quiet as Prince William and Princess Kate walked toward Emma's room. Dr. Chen had made sure that their visit would be private and peaceful without any crowds or media attention. The only sounds were their footsteps on the polished floor and the gentle hum of medical equipment in the distance. Both William and Kate felt nervous butterflies in their stomachs as they approached room 247. Dr. Chen stopped outside Emma's door and spoke quietly to the royal couple. She explained that Emma had been very excited all morning but was also quite weak from her latest treatment. Emma's parents were inside the room, and they were almost as nervous as their daughter about meeting the prince and princess. Dr. Chen reminded William and Kate that Emma tired easily, so they should watch for signs that she needed to rest. When Dr. Chen gently knocked on the door, they heard a small voice say, "Come in, please." William and Kate took one last deep breath before stepping into the room that would change their lives forever. What they saw was a tiny girl with a bright smile sitting up in her hospital bed, surrounded by the most amazing collection of drawings and artwork they had ever seen. Emma's eyes grew as wide as saucers when she saw Prince William and Princess Kate walking into her room. For a moment she could not speak or move because she could not believe that her biggest wish was actually coming true. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, stood beside her bed with tears already forming in their eyes as they watched their daughter's face light up with pure joy and amazement. Princess Kate was the first to speak as she walked over to Emma's bedside. "Hello, beautiful Emma," Kate said with the warmest smile. "We have been so excited to meet you. We read all of your wonderful letters, and we absolutely love your amazing artwork." Kate's voice was gentle and kind, exactly like Emma had imagined it would be when she dreamed about this moment. Prince William pulled a chair close to Emma's bed and sat down so he could be at her eye level. "Emma, you are one of the bravest people we have ever heard about," William said. "We came here today because we wanted to tell you how much you have inspired us with your courage and positive attitude." Emma's smile grew even bigger as she realized that Prince William was talking to her like she was his friend. Instead of the formal handshakes that usually happened at royal meetings, Princess Kate gently reached out and held Emma's small hand. Emma looked down at their joined hands and then back up at Kate's face. "You are even more beautiful than in the pictures," Emma whispered, making Kate laugh softly and squeeze her hand a little tighter. Emma's hospital room was decorated with dozens of pictures she had drawn during her long stays. There were castles with tall towers, princesses in flowing gowns, and gardens full of colorful flowers. Prince William stood up to look more closely at the artwork covering the walls. "Emma, these drawings are absolutely incredible," he said. "You are a real artist. Can you tell us about this castle here?" Emma's tiredness seemed to disappear as she began explaining each of her pictures to her royal visitors. She told them about the princess in the tower who was waiting to be rescued and about the magical garden where sick children could go to feel better. As Emma talked about her drawings, both William and Kate could see the bright imagination and hopeful spirit that had helped her survive so many difficult days. Mrs. Thompson watched from the corner of the room as her daughter came alive in a way she had not seen for weeks. Emma was sitting up straighter, her voice was stronger, and her eyes were sparkling with excitement. Mr. Thompson had to wipe away his tears as he saw his little girl experiencing pure happiness for the first time in months. What was supposed to be a 30-minute royal visit quickly turned into something completely different and much more special. Prince William and Princess Kate had completely forgotten about their tight schedule and all the other important meetings they were supposed to attend that day. The only thing that mattered to them was spending time with Emma and making sure she felt loved and valued. Princess Kate noticed that Emma had a coloring book and some crayons on her bedside table. "Emma, would you like to color together?" Kate asked. "I have not done any coloring for a very long time, and I think it would be fun." Emma's face lit up with excitement as she nodded eagerly. She could not believe that a real princess wanted to color pictures with her. Emma opened her coloring book to a page that showed Buckingham Palace with its famous gates and gardens. "This is your home," Emma said to Kate as she handed her a blue crayon. "I have been practicing coloring this picture because I wanted to make it perfect for you." Kate felt her heart melt as she realized that Emma had been preparing for this visit by practicing her coloring. While Kate and Emma worked on their coloring project, Prince William sat on the other side of Emma's bed and looked through her collection of storybooks. Emma had dozens of books about brave princesses, magical kingdoms, and children who overcame great challenges. "Emma, which one of these is your favorite story?" William asked. Emma put down her crayon for a moment and picked up a worn book about a little girl who was afraid of the dark. "This one helped me when I was scared about my treatments," Emma explained. The little girl in the story learns that being afraid is okay, but you can still do brave things even when you are scared. William nodded thoughtfully as he understood how this simple children's book had given Emma strength during her most difficult moments. Dr. Chen and several nurses had quietly gathered outside Emma's room to observe this remarkable visit. They had worked with many sick children over the years, but they had never seen anything like what was happening inside room 247. The royal couple had transformed the sterile hospital room into a place filled with warmth, laughter, and genuine friendship. As they continued coloring, Emma shyly asked Princess Kate if she would like to learn a card game that she had been taught by another patient in the hospital. "It is called Go Fish, and it is really fun," Emma explained. "My friend Sarah taught it to me before she went home last week." Kate immediately said yes and asked Emma to teach her the rules. Emma carefully explained how to play Go Fish while she dealt the cards with her small hands. Prince William joined the game, and soon all three of them were laughing as they played together. Emma was winning most of the rounds, and she giggled every time she said, "Go Fish," to the prince or princess. For these precious moments, Emma forgot about being sick and just enjoyed being a normal 8-year-old girl playing cards with her friends. The hospital staff outside the room watched in amazement as they heard genuine laughter coming from inside. Emma had not laughed like this since before she got sick, and her parents were crying happy tears as they saw their daughter experiencing pure joy. Mrs. Thompson whispered to her husband that this was the first time in months that Emma seemed like her old self again. Prince William noticed that Emma had a small teddy bear sitting on her bedside table. The bear was obviously very well loved and had been through many adventures with Emma. "What is your bear's name?" William asked. Emma hugged the bear close to her chest and explained that his name was Brave Bear because he helped her feel courageous during her treatments and scary medical procedures. Princess Kate gently touched Brave Bear's soft fur and told Emma that she thought bears were very good at helping people feel safe and loved. Emma asked Kate if she had a special toy when she was little, and Kate shared a story about her own childhood teddy bear that had helped her through difficult times. This simple conversation helped Emma realize that even princesses had been scared sometimes when they were children. After 2 wonderful hours of coloring, playing cards, and sharing stories, it was time for Prince William and Princess Kate to leave. Both of them felt sad about saying goodbye to Emma because they had grown to love this brave little girl in just a few short hours. Emma's parents could see that their daughter had formed a real connection with the royal couple, and it was going to be hard for everyone to part ways. As Princess Kate was gathering up her things, Emma reached out and gently tugged on her sleeve. "Princess Kate," Emma whispered in a very quiet voice, "can I tell you something that is making me scared?" Kate immediately sat back down on the edge of Emma's bed and took her small hand. "Of course you can tell me anything, sweetheart," Kate said softly. Emma looked down at her hands and spoke so quietly that everyone in the room had to lean in to hear her words. "I have to have a very big surgery next week," Emma said. "The doctors say it might help me get better, but I am really scared about going to sleep for the operation. What if I do not wake up?" Emma's voice began to shake as she shared her deepest fear with Princess Kate. Kate felt tears forming in her eyes as she heard Emma's honest confession. She could not imagine how frightening it must be for such a young child to face such a serious surgery. Kate looked into Emma's eyes and spoke from her heart. "Emma, I understand why you are scared. That sounds very frightening, and it is completely normal to feel afraid about something so big." Prince William moved his chair closer to Emma's bed so he could be part of this important conversation. "Emma, when I was younger, I was scared about many things too," William said. "But I learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to feel scared and do what you need to do anyway. And you will not be alone during your surgery because so many people love you and are thinking about you." Emma nodded as she listened to Prince William's words, but Kate could see that she was still very worried about the surgery. Without thinking about royal protocol or official schedules, Kate made a decision that surprised everyone in the room, including herself. "Emma, I want to make you a promise," Kate said. "I promise that I will be here when you wake up from your surgery. You will not be alone." Emma's eyes grew wide with surprise and hope. "Really?" she asked. "You would really come back to see me after my surgery?" Kate nodded firmly and squeezed Emma's hand. "Yes, I promise. Prince William and I will both be here when you open your eyes. We want to be the first people you see so you know that you are safe and loved." Prince William looked at his wife, and nodded in agreement. He knew that this promise meant they would have to change their entire schedule for the following week, but he also knew it was the right thing to do. "Emma, Princess Kate is absolutely right," William said. "We will both be here when you wake up from your surgery. That is a promise from both of us." Dr. Chen and the nursing staff exchanged surprised glances because they had never heard of members of the royal family making such personal commitments to individual patients. They could see that this was not just a polite gesture but a genuine promise that came from William and Kate's hearts. The emotion on both of their faces showed that they truly cared about Emma's well-being. Emma's parents were overwhelmed with gratitude and could hardly believe what they were hearing. Mrs. Thompson began crying as she realized that her daughter would have something wonderful to look forward to after her surgery. Mr. Thompson thanked William and Kate over and over again for giving Emma such an incredible gift of hope and support. Emma hugged Brave Bear tightly and looked back and forth between Prince William and Princess Kate. "Thank you for promising to be here," she said. "Now I think I can be brave during my surgery, because I know you will be waiting for me when I wake up. It will be like having a prince and princess watching over me while I sleep." As they prepared to leave, Princess Kate gave Emma one more gentle hug and whispered in her ear, "Remember, you are braver than you believe and stronger than you know. We will see you very soon." Emma smiled and waved goodbye as she watched her new friends walk out of her hospital room, knowing that they would keep their promise to return. The sun had not yet risen when Prince William and Princess Kate arrived at Manchester Children's Hospital on the morning of Emma's surgery. They had driven through the dark, early morning hours to make sure they would be there to support Emma and her family during this crucial day. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty and the building was quiet except for the essential staff who worked through the night caring for sick children. Emma's surgery was scheduled to begin at 7 in the morning, and William and Kate wanted to see her before she was taken to the operating room. They found Emma's parents in the family waiting area looking tired and worried after spending a sleepless night at the hospital. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson could hardly believe their eyes when they saw the royal couple walking toward them in the early morning light. "We promised Emma we would be here," Princess Kate said as she hugged Mrs. Thompson. "How is she feeling this morning?" Mrs. Thompson explained that Emma had been awake most of the night because she was nervous about the surgery, but she had been asking every few minutes if Prince William and Princess Kate were really going to come back as they had promised. Prince William sat down next to Mr. Thompson and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "This must be incredibly difficult for both of you," William said. "We want you to know that we are here to support your whole family today, not just Emma. You do not have to go through this alone." Mr. Thompson felt grateful to have such caring people beside them during the most frightening day of their lives. When they entered Emma's room, they found her sitting up in her hospital bed wearing a special surgery gown and holding Brave Bear tightly in her arms. Emma's face lit up with joy and relief when she saw William and Kate walking through her door. "You really came back," Emma said with a big smile. "I knew you would keep your promise, but I was still a little worried that maybe you would be too busy." Princess Kate sat on Emma's bed and gently brushed a strand of hair away from her face. "Emma, we told you we would be here, and we always keep our promises," Kate said. "How are you feeling about your surgery today?" Emma took a deep breath and said she was still scared, but she felt much braver knowing that her friends were there with her. Dr. Chen came into the room to explain what would happen during the surgery and to answer any last-minute questions that Emma or her parents might have. The operation would take about 6 hours, and it was going to be very complicated, but Dr. Chen was confident that her surgical team was well prepared. Emma listened carefully to everything the doctor said and asked several very smart questions about what would happen while she was sleeping. When it was time for Emma to be taken to the operating room, the whole family walked together down the hospital corridor. Emma was lying on a special bed with wheels, and she held Princess Kate's hand as they moved toward the surgery area. Prince William walked on the other side of the bed and kept talking to Emma about happy things to help her stay calm and relaxed. At the doors to the operating room, Emma would have to say goodbye to everyone because only the medical team was allowed inside during the surgery. This was the moment that everyone had been dreading because it meant Emma would be on her own for the next several hours. Emma looked up at Princess Kate with big eyes and asked, "Will you really be here when I wake up?" "Absolutely," Kate promised as she leaned down to give Emma a gentle kiss on her forehead. "Prince William and I are going to wait right here in the hospital until your surgery is finished. The very first faces you see when you open your eyes will be ours." Emma smiled and hugged Brave Bear one more time before handing him to her mother for safekeeping. As the medical team wheeled Emma into the operating room, she waved goodbye to everyone and called out, "See you when I wake up." The doors closed behind her, and suddenly the corridor became very quiet. Emma's parents stood there feeling helpless and afraid, but they were not alone. Prince William and Princess Kate stayed right beside them, ready to provide comfort and support for as long as needed. For the next 6 hours, William and Kate remained at the hospital waiting for news about Emma's surgery. They could have left and returned later, but they had made a commitment to be there for Emma and her family. They'd brought coffee for Emma's parents, made phone calls to cancel their other appointments, and did everything they could to help pass the long and worrying hours of waiting. After 6 long hours of waiting, Dr. Chen finally walked out of the operating room with a tired but happy smile on her face. Emma's surgery had been successful, and she was now in the recovery room slowly waking up from the anesthesia. Dr. Chen explained that the operation had gone even better than expected and Emma was showing strong vital signs as she began to regain consciousness. Prince William and Princess Kate felt overwhelming relief when they heard the good news about Emma's surgery. They had spent the entire day worrying about this brave little girl and praying that everything would go well. Emma's parents were crying tears of joy and gratitude as they hugged each other and thanked Dr. Chen for taking such good care of their daughter. "Can we see her now?" Mrs. Thompson asked anxiously. Dr. Chen explained that Emma was still very drowsy from the medication, but she was stable enough for visitors. She warned everyone that Emma would be confused and sleepy for the first few hours as the anesthesia wore off, but this was completely normal after such a major surgery. As they walked toward the recovery room, Princess Kate felt nervous butterflies in her stomach. She and William had promised Emma that they would be the first faces she saw when she woke up, and they were determined to keep that promise. They had waited at the hospital all day specifically for this moment, and they wanted everything to be perfect for Emma. Emma was lying very still in the recovery room bed, with several machines beeping quietly around her. Her face was pale, and she looked so small and fragile surrounded by all the medical equipment. Brave Bear was tucked in beside her, where her mother had placed him as soon as Emma was brought back from surgery. The teddy bear seemed to be standing guard over his sleeping friend. Prince William and Princess Kate positioned themselves on either side of Emma's bed so that she would see both of their faces as soon as she opened her eyes. They spoke softly to each other while they waited, sharing how impressed they were with Emma's courage and strength throughout this entire experience. Both of them felt that meeting Emma had changed something important inside their own hearts. After about 20 minutes, Emma's eyelids began to flutter as she slowly started to wake up from the deep sleep caused by the surgery medication. Her eyes opened just a tiny bit at first, and then gradually opened wider as she became more aware of her surroundings. The very first thing Emma saw was Princess Kate's smiling face, looking down at her with love and concern. "Hello, beautiful Emma," Kate whispered softly. "You did such a wonderful job with your surgery today. You were so brave and strong." Emma's eyes moved slowly to the other side of her bed, where she saw Prince William's kind face smiling at her. Even though she was still very drowsy, Emma managed to give them both a weak but genuine smile. "You came back," Emma whispered in a voice that was barely audible. "I knew you would keep your promise." Princess Kate gently took Emma's hand and squeezed it softly. "Of course we came back," Kate said. "We told you we would be here when you woke up, and we always keep our promises to special friends like you." Emma tried to sit up, but she was still too weak from the surgery, so Prince William gently helped her stay comfortable by adjusting her pillows. "How do you feel?" William asked. Emma thought about his question for a moment, and then said, "I feel tired, but I also feel happy because you are both here with me, just like you promised." Over the next few days, as Emma's strength slowly returned, something remarkable began to happen. The doctors and nurses noticed that Emma's recovery was progressing much faster than they had expected. Her positive attitude and fighting spirit seemed stronger than before her surgery, and she was eager to get better so she could go home to her family. Dr. Chen told Emma's parents that she had rarely seen a young patient recover so quickly from such a major operation. Emma was eating well, sleeping peacefully, and participating actively in her physical therapy sessions. When Dr. Chen asked Emma what was motivating her to work so hard on her recovery, Emma explained that she wanted to get strong enough to visit Prince William and Princess Kate at their palace. Emma's mother later told the hospital social worker that she believed the royal visit had given Emma something that medicine could not provide. Emma now had absolute certainty that she was loved and valued by people who cared about her well-being. This knowledge had filled Emma with a new sense of purpose and determination to get better and live a full and happy life. Word about Prince William and Princess Kate's extraordinary hospital visit began to spread quietly through the medical community in Manchester and then throughout England. The story was not shared through newspapers or television reports, but rather through personal conversations between doctors, nurses, and hospital staff who had witnessed something truly special happening in their workplace. Dr. Chen found herself telling colleagues at medical conferences about the remarkable recovery she had observed in young Emma Thompson. She explained that while the surgery had been successful, Emma's rapid healing and positive attitude seemed to be directly connected to the emotional support she had received from the royal couple. Other pediatric specialists began asking questions about how compassionate care could impact patient outcomes. The nursing staff at Manchester Children's Hospital noticed that Emma's story was inspiring other young patients who were facing their own serious medical challenges. Children in nearby rooms had heard about the prince and princess who came to visit their friend Emma, and they began asking if they could write letters to the royal family too. The idea of contacting Prince William and Princess Kate gave these sick children something hopeful to focus on during their difficult treatments. Within a few weeks, the palace began receiving dozens of letters from children who were battling various illnesses across the country. These letters were different from the usual fan mail that arrived at royal residences. These children were not asking for visits or special treatment. Instead, they were writing to thank Prince William and Princess Kate for showing what genuine compassion looked like through their care for Emma. 10-year-old Michael from Liverpool wrote to say that hearing about Emma's story had helped him feel braver during his own cancer treatments. He explained that if a prince and princess could take time to care about one sick child, then maybe his own struggle was important too. Michael's letter included a drawing of himself as a brave knight fighting the dragon of his illness. 8-year-old Sarah from Birmingham sent a letter describing how Emma's story had inspired her to start a friendship club in her hospital ward. Sarah had been receiving treatment for a rare blood disorder for 6 months, and she decided to organize activities to help other children feel less lonely during their long stays in the hospital. She wrote that Emma had shown her how important it was to think about others even when you were facing your own problems. The ripple effect of William and Kate's compassion continued to spread as parents of sick children began sharing Emma's story on social media and in online support groups. These parents were not looking for publicity or attention for their own families. Instead, they were using Emma's experience as an example of how small acts of kindness could make enormous differences in the lives of people who were struggling. Hospital social workers and child psychologists began documenting what they called the Emma effect. They noticed that children who heard about the royal visit seemed to develop stronger coping skills and more positive attitudes about their medical treatments. The story gave these young patients proof that they were valued and that their courage was recognized by people they admired. The Children's Hospital in Manchester started receiving donations from people who had heard about Emma's story and wanted to support other families going through similar experiences. These donors explained that they had been moved by the example of compassion shown by Prince William and Princess Kate, and they wanted to continue that spirit of caring in their own way. Emma herself became a source of inspiration for newly diagnosed children who arrived at the hospital scared and confused about what was happening to them. The nursing staff would often arrange for Emma to spend time with these frightened newcomers, sharing her own experiences and helping them understand that they could be brave even when they felt afraid. Emma's parents received phone calls and letters from other families who were dealing with childhood illnesses. These parents wanted to know how Emma had developed such a positive attitude and strong fighting spirit. Mrs. Thompson would always explain that while Emma had always been a special child, the visit from Prince William and Princess Kate had given her daughter a new sense of her own worth and importance. The medical staff at Manchester Children's Hospital began incorporating lessons from Emma's experience into their training programs for new doctors and nurses. They emphasized the importance of treating each patient as a unique and valuable individual rather than just focusing on medical symptoms and procedures. Emma's story became a powerful reminder that healing involves much more than just medicine and surgery. Dr. Chen later wrote in a medical journal that Emma's case had taught her that sometimes the most effective treatment for a patient is simply knowing that someone cares deeply about their well-being. The emotional support that Emma received had created a foundation of hope and strength that enhanced all of her other medical treatments. 6 months after Emma's successful surgery, she received a very special invitation in the mail that made her jump up and down with excitement. Prince William and Princess Kate had invited Emma and her family to have afternoon tea at Kensington Palace. The formal invitation was written on beautiful royal stationery, but it also included a handwritten note from Kate saying how much they were looking forward to seeing their brave friend again. Emma spent weeks preparing for her visit to the palace. She practiced her best manners, chose her prettiest dress, and made special thank you cards for Prince William and Princess Kate. Emma also brought along Brave Bear because she wanted to show the royal couple how well her faithful companion was doing now that they were both healthy and strong. When Emma and her parents arrived at Kensington Palace, they were greeted by the same warm and genuine smiles they remembered from the hospital. Prince William and Princess Kate hugged Emma as if she were a member of their own family, and immediately made her feel comfortable and welcome in the grand royal residence that she had only seen in pictures before. The afternoon tea was held in a beautiful garden behind the palace where Emma could see flowers blooming and birds singing in the trees. But the most wonderful surprise was that Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis were there to meet Emma and play with her. The royal children had heard so much about their parents' brave friend, and they were excited to finally meet the girl who had inspired their mother and father. Emma and the royal children spent hours playing games in the palace gardens, while their parents watched and laughed at their silly jokes and creative adventures. Emma taught them the card game Go Fish that she had learned in the hospital, and they showed her their favorite hiding spots around the palace grounds. For the first time since her illness began, Emma felt like a completely normal child having fun with friends her own age. Princess Kate sat with Emma's parents and talked about how much Emma's courage and positive attitude had affected her own life. Kate explained that meeting Emma had reminded her of what was truly important and had inspired her to focus more of her royal work on supporting families who were facing serious challenges. Kate told Mrs. Thompson that Emma had been a teacher as much as she had been a patient. Prince William shared with Mr. Thompson how Emma's story had influenced his understanding of mental health and resilience. William explained that Emma had shown him that even very young people could demonstrate incredible strength and wisdom when they were supported by love and compassion. Emma's example had motivated William to expand his mental health advocacy to include programs specifically designed for children. As the afternoon continued, Emma presented Prince William and Princess Kate with a very special gift she had made during her recovery. It was a photo album filled with pictures and stories from other children who had been inspired by Emma's experience. Emma had spent months collecting these contributions and creating a book that showed how one act of kindness had spread to help many other people. The photo album contained drawings, poems, and letters from dozens of children who had found hope and courage through Emma's story. There were pictures of kids in hospitals across the country who had formed friendship groups, started art projects, and found new ways to support each other during their treatments. Emma wanted William and Kate to see how far their compassion had traveled and how many lives it had touched. Prince William and Princess Kate were deeply moved as they looked through Emma's album and realized the incredible impact that their simple decision to visit one sick child had created. They had followed their hearts and shown genuine care for Emma, but they had never imagined that their actions would inspire such a widespread movement of kindness and support among children facing medical challenges. Before Emma and her family left the palace that evening, Prince William and Princess Kate made an announcement that surprised and delighted everyone. They had decided to establish a new charitable foundation called Emma's Hope that would provide emotional support and friendship programs for children dealing with serious illnesses and their families. Emma's Hope would create networks connecting sick children with mentors, organize special events and activities, and ensure that no child would have to face a medical crisis feeling alone or forgotten. The foundation would be based on the principles that Emma had taught them about the power of genuine human connection and the importance of treating every person as valuable and worthy of love. As they said goodbye that evening, Emma hugged Prince William and Princess Kate tightly and whispered, "Thank you for showing me that being sick does not mean being alone." Kate hugged her back and replied, "Thank you for showing us what real courage looks like and for teaching us that the smallest acts of love can create the biggest changes in the world." Years later, Emma grew up to become a pediatric nurse herself, dedicating her life to caring for sick children just as she had been cared for during her own illness. She often told her young patients about the prince and princess who had shown her that everyone deserves to be loved and supported during their most difficult times. Emma's story continued to inspire new generations of children, doctors, and caregivers to approach each challenge with hope, compassion, and the absolute certainty that no one has to face their struggles alone.